Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I decided to make this video because typically around KC Cup there isn't too much discussion on the popular staples in the meta. So I mean there might be some discussion here and there, but I feel like there isn't like a large enough community discussion on it, at least just in my personal opinion. Some other content creators might upload videos here and there, but I still feel like the staples are not talked about as much in comparison to the decks themselves. So I figured I'd make this video and just give my 2 cents on it and just give some insight on popular cards and useful cards that are very useful or can be used during this KC Cup. Now, I want to do two things before I start. I want to review the tier list, and I'm gonna explain the actual tier list here. So first, let's review the tier list. I think that as far as like the decks that are presented here on YGODuelLinks Meta, it's pretty accurate. I do think though that Dark Magician is a cut above the rest of the tier 3 decks. I don't know if Swartzwell still deserves to be on this list, but when we go to the power rankings, I mean, Valence and Swartzwell aren't even here, and if you really think about it, looking at this list, it's a 3-deck format. In all honesty, it's a 4-deck format because Dark Magician really like shuts these 2 decks down if they go first. So and then Chimera, I'm not too sure about Chimera right now. I know it's a strong deck overall and it's like still like the best turn 1 deck, but I'm not sure about its longevity in the KC Cup, considering that like it's very susceptible to disruption going second. So not really too sure about commenting on Chimera, but if you think about it, like it's really these 4 decks, and everything else is just gonna be like a rogue option. To be honest, you might see decks like Valence, Rockets, maybe even a little bit of Libromancers, not too much, I don't think though. Sky Strikers I think might be still popular. I don't think you'll see too much Flunderies, but I think Utopia might see a resurgence in the KC Cup as well, just because of other techs. I'm gonna talk about some of the techs that facilitate certain decks, like such as Despia and Utopia and things of that nature, resonators. So let's get to my actual staples tier list, starting with explaining the actual like breakdown and why it's like this. Tier 0.5 I decided to implement as a tier of cards that are like a cut above the rest. Like you will see, it's like guaranteed success if you play these cards. It's like no doubt about it. There is like, it's like virtually mandatory to play these cards. Tier 1 are cards that are slightly below that. And what I mean specifically by that is that if you don't have everything in tier 0.5, you're still going to be good. Like you can replace these cards with the cards in tier 1 and see almost just as much success. But because of how powerful tier 0.5 is, you are pretty much like, there's certain interactions that you might not be able to have because you don't have the cards in 0.5. Now, tier 2 are more niche options. So you'll see what I'm talking about. They're powerful cards that you won't see in every deck, or not every deck will play them. But there's still something to look out for and to consider while you're playing in the KC Cup. Now, tier 3 and 4, I wasn't originally going to consider tier 4, but as far as tier 3 and 4 are concerned, these tiers are regulated for decks that not decks, staples that are good to consider, and more like free to play options, or just like cards that have been used in the past that still might have some relevance now if you don't get your hands on tier 2 and above. So there's a clear separation between these two. Tier 0.5, 1, and 2 is the main tier list, like cards that you like will see, need to be playing, guaranteed success you'll see. And 3 and 4 is more reserved for alternative options if you're recently joining the game or a returning player and you may not have time or just all the resources to get all these cards. And also tier 4 is like the worst of these options for the free to play staples. All right. So starting off with Book of Moon, this card is going to be in the tier 1 slot. Now, I just want to throw in something else as far as like the organization. The order in which the cards are placed in their respective rows will be how powerful those cards are compared to the other cards in their row. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, Book of Moon, I mean, a lot of people overlook this card, and in my personal opinion, it's a big mistake. I mean, as good as its counterpart is, Eclipse, I think that there are certain decks that might want to play Book of Moon over Eclipse. So decks like maybe Rocket, and my playtest like Libromancers, stuff like that, only because you want your cards face up to actually do stuff. And back row removal is very popular this time around, so you don't want to be forced to use a card like Eclipse that is going to affect both you and your opponent by flipping everything face down, or just not being able to use the Eclipse because your opponent MST'd it, and now there was like no point in which it made sense to use the Eclipse. You get what I'm saying? So I think for decks like Rockets, Libromancers, maybe even Dark Magician, these decks might benefit a little bit more from Book of Moon, so they can like target specific cards and just have more success using Book of Moon in times where it may be a little bit less optimal compared to Book of Eclipse. Next card up, Cosmic. As of right now, this is the best back row removal in the game, and it's largely due to the top two decks, Shinobird and Blue Eyes. Their trap cards, they are perfect targets for Cosmic. Now, obviously, they're trap cards, so you're not really looking to negate them. But what's good about Cosmic is that it banishes the card. So, and it's really good nowadays because most of the time, like 80% of the time, you know exactly where those two cards are. What's the name of the Shinobird one? I forgot the name of it. It's like Milky Way or something like that. I think Milky Way is the name of this card, right? If it wants to load, okay. I'm not sure why it's not loading, but Milky Way and Majesty, those two cards. you know where they're set like 80% of the time. So that makes Cosmic even better because it can completely nullify their grave effects. Well, not even nullify, it just keeps them from hitting the grave altogether. So you don't have to worry about it later on. DD Crow. Now, DD Crow isn't really popular this time around because you aren't really using DD Crow for a specific matchup, which is typically what you would use DD Crow for. But I think it's still good because let's say you don't get access to your Cosmic and you're still playing DD Crow, you can still force your opponent to use that Majesty or that Milky Way earlier than, you know, they might want to. So that's why I think DD Crow is a solid option. It also hits decks like I mean, it still kind of hits Blue Eyes a little bit, banishing their Kaiba Man early, getting their Jet, hitting their Jet, hitting Dark Magician, getting Dark Magician Girl out the grave, giving them one less draw or something like that. I'm not saying it's a card that you should be like playing, you need to play, but let's say if you don't have the option to run other cards, I think DD Crow will still be helpful for you. Next card up is Blizzard. There are a lot of decks that run spell cards for their actual combos. So, for example, the Ritual spell for Shino Birds, or even with Blue Eyes, like if you wanted to negate Trade-In, or the Melody, Bingo Machine. Those are good options to hit for those cards. Or you can even hit other tech cards. You can hit the Book of Moon, Eclipse, Cosmic, and stuff like that. If the match calls for it, you know. So it has a lot of good uses that I mean, it's kind of evident, right? It's basically a spell negate. And so even though you might not see it in every deck, when you play it, you will see success. There's like no doubt about it. Now, for our first tier 0.5 card is Droplet. I think this card has been probably the best card in the game for a long time now, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's perfectly balanced. It doesn't need a hit or anything like that, and it gets the job done. But with that being said, I don't think every deck can play this card. Now, when I say not every deck can play this card, obviously the top decks can play it, right? Shino Bird, Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, even Dragons, they can play it, right? But Sword Soul might not want to play it. Valence, maybe. I'm not 100% sure if you really want to play Droplet. I mean, look, they have 3 and 24%, and then most people are not playing at 53%. So I'm not entirely sure if you'd want to play that, but it still has its applications. It's really like amongst the best. Is not really it's not really something to debate. All right, next up is Effect Veiler. Now I have a very hot take that I'm gonna save a little bit towards the just save it towards the end of the video, but just talking about Veiler specifically, and that hot take has to do with hand traps, by the way. Veiler is an amazing card this time around. I feel like it's like one of the metas where it shines the best, because there's a lot of one-of cards that you might want to hit. Now, it doesn't do everything by itself. It's not a Droplet, it's not an Eclipse, you know, but it still will get the job done. So for example, right, let's say you open Veiler against Blue Eyes. Hitting that Kaiba Man, that's really good. Against dragons, hitting their rank 6 Atom, that's gonna do some damage to them. For Shino Bird, there isn't really a direct target, but it'll be helpful to use alongside your other disruptions if you're going first and you happen to open it and you're going first hand. Using Effect Veiler alongside your other disruptions will be good in stopping Shino Bird. But if you do go first, I think a solid option might be hitting their Aratama. But even better than that is going to be the Shino Baron Shade Peacock. I think this is the best target to hit in the deck if you just open like Effect Veiler going second. Because, I mean, they add a Spirit and the Ritual spell. That's a +2, and they already ritualed out the deck, so they basically get a +2 for free. But if you Veiler them, they kind of get stuck on the field. They don't get those adds, and it really slows down their plays. So that'll probably be the best target for Veiler if you know, go second. Final Bringer. This card is a very niche card. You'll probably see it in like maybe 2 or 3 decks. Like, let's say Resonators really benefit from this card. Dragons benefit from this card. What else? Oh, there's another deck I was thinking of. It literally just slipped my mind. But being able to dodge Disruption is really what makes this card shine, not just the destruction effect. It's like the combination of both. I think that you won't see this card that often, but expect it in those kind of decks that benefit from like grave effects and like dodging effects. So like I said, Salad, I think that was the other deck, right? Salad and Resonators, I know this card does pretty decent with, especially because they have effect destruction protection as well. But sometimes they won't even use that, and they'll like literally just let their card be destroyed so they can get the effect or dodge it, or they gain an effect by destroying their card. Next card up. I'm debating on whether to put Chalice in tier 1 or tier 2. I think that I'll put it in tier 2 just because you might not see it as often. But I think it has the same power as the cards in tier 1, if that makes sense. I hope that is clear. Chalice is basically your budget Droplet, but not really. It has some good benefits for the simple fact that you don't have to get rid of anything, right? So if your deck can't benefit or can't afford Droplet to discard cards, that's when you would play a card like Droplet or even Effect Veiler even, and Book of Moon as well. Those are solid options to replace Droplet. Chalice, it's a standard negate. It's a very good card. It's been relevant for forever now, and it's not really a card that will ever truly fall off, I think. I think it'll be somewhat relevant forever, and that's a good thing. Cards like that are really good for the game. Alright, our first tier 3 card will be Lance. Now, like I said, if for whatever reason you can't get your hands on Cosmic, even though it's a free card, or Blizzard or anything like that, and you feel like back row is really slowing you down, Lance is a good option. Now, the thing is, you do have to consider that it only protects one of your monsters. I wouldn't suggest running this card ever at 3 if you do have to play it, because I mean, it kind of depends. Like, you wouldn't want this to be a card that you set I mean, like I said, it just depends on what's going on. I feel like the card is good enough for when you're going second, you can use it to like, you know, protect yourself from disruption, especially like obviously from back row. But also, I don't know if you'd want to set this with your end board, mainly because you really want to be disrupting your opponent. And I know cards like Droplet and like Eclipse and stuff exist, but most decks are setting up like 3+ disruptions. So maybe if that's all your deck can set up, like 3 disruptions, it'll be okay to like run this card at 3 so you can make sure those disruptions go through. But other than that, I can't really see this card being a like a major like something that you rely on to like keep your board and stuff. Next card up, first tier 4 card will be Herald of the Abyss. I only included this card because I know a lot of people complain about like boards that are unbreakable, like you can't do anything and like I don't know how to play the game and stuff like that. But this is a free option that you could use to help break your opponent's board. Now, it's only good going second, obviously, but I mean, if you can't afford cards like Droplet or you don't have like 3, or even if you have 3 Eclipse, but you need more cards to try and help break your opponent's board, this would be a solid option. Like I said, tier 4 is reserved, and 3 and 4 are reserved for just like the free to play player cards that you can access quickly and not worry too much about how you would like grinding a bunch to get these higher tier cards. I still think you will see a little bit of success with tier 3 and 4, but they're not necessarily cards that you should be relying on. Next up is Phoenix. Now, Phoenix is a little bit weak right now, mainly because of Blue Eyes protecting their board from destruction effects, but it's still good in other matchups. And if your deck can make Phoenix, you should probably be playing Phoenix. Same thing with Unicorn. I mean, I would say Unicorn is a little bit more powerful and reliable than Phoenix just because of that Blue Eyes matchup. But I mean, these cards, they're like the perfect extra deck duo. You really can't go wrong playing with these cards, and I think that you'll see a majority of decks running these cards. Now, Mystical Space Typhoon. I think that, oh, actually, let me adjust this a little bit. I think that I'm not sure about DD Crow and MST just yet, but I do think Final Bring is going to be stronger than DD Crow. Now, with MST, like I said, with Phoenix, Blue Eyes really holds this card back. You really don't want to see MST when you're playing against Blue Eyes, because most of the time they're ending on Jet, they're ending on Dingirsu, you know, stuff like that. So you don't want to have that dead card in your hand. But if your opponent slips up and they don't end, I mean, like I said, it's only if Blue Eyes has those cards on field. But if they don't, it's not going to be easy to just like get them to protect their stuff. Like as soon as you activate the MST, you will get a destruction effect to go through. So popping their True Light or popping the Majesty where you saw it set, or just chaining to the True Light itself. If they don't have any protection from it, MST will still be good. So I think that MST is probably a little bit more reliable than DD Crow, actually. I don't know why that was debated in my head. Next card up, Nibiru. Now, I'm not exactly sure where to put this card, mainly because it's not popular right now, but just because it's not popular doesn't mean it's not powerful. And I think whatever decks that can play this card will shine more than you think. Like, for example, I don't know if anyone really remembers this deck, but Despia, remember Despia? Despia can run Nibiru. And if you're doing a board wipe on your opponent's turn and a board wipe on your turn, board wipe on opponent's turn from Nibiru, board wipe on your turn with the first Dark Lord. I think that, I mean, maybe people aren't considering it or thinking about it. I haven't really seen it tested too much, but from what I know about what's going on in the meta right now, having that back to back, that in itself can win games. Especially if the Despia player goes first, they have the burn, the tax dragon, masquerade on top of Nibiru. I mean, if the opponent doesn't open any text to get rid of masquerade, they're gonna have to burn for a significant amount. And all that effort that they put in to get rid of masquerade or to at least make some semblance of a board, getting Nibiru. I mean, like I said, they didn't open a tech, so it's gonna be hard for them to survive on when it reaches your turn. So I'm not saying that this card is something that you should be like super worried about. I mean, Blue Eyes can play this card, and that's really the only relevant deck that can play it. And I think because of that, I will drop it down to about here, because Despia and Blue Eyes are really the only decks that you can even remotely think of that will play this card. And even then, Blue Eyes won't even play it as much. But I think if you're playing Despia, you should be running Nibiru right now. And I know that might seem a little bit counterintuitive because of the second part of your skill, but you can build your deck around, playing Nibiru, or just do other lines and have other counter measures, so you don't have to rely on having the second part of your skill be live all the time, especially going second. It does give you an advantage to have that second part of the skill live, but for one, you're not going to have Nibiru in all your games. And for the most part, if you're Nibiruing like a Shinobird board or like a dragon board, you probably won't even need the second part of the skill, honestly, especially if you're building your deck correctly and the ratios are proper. You probably won't even need the second part of the skill to even OTK them on the follow-up. So there's that. But I'll leave Nibiru for here right now because it's not as popular. I think you'll probably see MST more often, but Nibiru is going to be more of a problem for you. Like, if you're just going through your combo and you get Nibiru'd and you'd even like prep for it to continue after playing Nibiru, or you don't have any back row to help you survive or anything like that, you're cooked. You're most likely going to lose on the follow-up. So yeah. Next card up is Kaijus. So this card represents all kaiju-like cards. So Lava Golem, the kaijus themselves, and even Sphere Mode. I think that they're going to be really good this time around. Like, if you can play these cards, like the Odeon can play these cards, Utopia, Despia, I think those decks will, if you're playing those decks, if you have those decks, let's say you have those decks at full power, you don't have the opportunity to play Blue Eyes, you don't have the opportunity to play Shinobird for whatever reason, but you have access to those decks, Nibiru and the Kaijus are probably going to be your best friend, man. Because you really get to you don't even have to worry about having Eclipse or Droplet or whatever, you know, using your resources, extra resources with Droplet to negate stuff, you can just get rid of it altogether. And so just breaking your opponent's board like that, you're gonna, I mean, it's Kaijus. Kaijus are notorious for just coming out of nowhere, no activation, there's no way to even suspect it. I mean, if you're playing the Odeon card, I mean the Odeon skill, you're gonna see them search it, but there's nothing you could really do about it. You just have to take the tribute and that's it. So yeah, there's that. Goddess, I will say Goddess is around here. Not too many decks are making or can make Goddess. Xenobird can obviously make it, Dragons can make it and stuff like that, but you really don't need Goddess to win, but it is something that you should consider, especially in a deck like Xenobird. Yeah, you should probably expect Goddess. You should also expect it in Libromancers. I feel like that deck is a lot better than people say it is. I could be wrong, but I've been having success with it. I've been having fun with it, and I mean, it might not get like a bunch of tops, but if you're playing Libromancers, if you know what you're doing and you're playing the right tech cards and stuff like that, I think that you will do just fine. Next card up, Offerings to the Doomed. This used to be like the Book of Moon replacement. I don't want to say replacement, but like it was a card that people talked about if you couldn't get those Book of Moons back in the day. And I think the same thing here. Like if you don't think that your deck can afford Eclipse and you don't have that many tech options, this is a free option that you can use with box chips to grab maybe 2 copies at most. I don't think you really need 3, but 3 could be helpful, just depending on how you're building your deck. Just be aware that you cannot draw the turn after you use the effect, but maybe you're going for OTK, so you don't care. You just want to get your opponent's stuff out the way. Kaijus, offerings, stuff like that, that'll help you achieve that goal. Compulse, same thing. I think that, well, not same thing, because it's a trap card. So, like I said, this tier is reserved for more free-to-play options, or like options that are not as strong as tier 2, 1, and 0.5, but you will have some mild success if you do play these cards. Now, as far as Crackdown, I do think Crackdown, I can't think of any deck that benefits from running Crackdown, and there's no decks out right now that are super hurt from Crackdown, really. I mean, if you happen to go first and you have Crackdown, it has I guess it has a similar effect to like cards like Book of Moon, Effect Veiler, and Chalice and stuff like that, but you have to have room on your board. And like I said before, back removal is strong right now, so Cosmics are going to be everywhere. MSTs, you're definitely going to see some, and I mean, you're going to see it more than Crackdown for sure. And also Final Bringer, I think that's a card to look out for as well. So those are all cards that you're not, Crackdown won't be like a reliable card, but it is a card to play if you have and you don't have a bunch of options. IP, definitely going in the tier 1 slot. I will put it above the other 2. Actually, nah, because there are decks that play these cards and don't play IP, but you know, IP also facilitates these 2 cards here. Mainly the Unicorn, not really IPing into Phoenix, but yeah, IP, perfect card for setting up going first. You are you can't go wrong playing it. Destruction protection, easy to get out, you know, always has value. I don't think it belongs in this row here at all. because you know it also works with Goddess, you know. So there's that. As far as Mourner goes, I think that Mourner is a decent option because there aren't too many cards that are like dodging Mourner right now. So, like for example, when dragons make their Autumn, you can Mourner that. When Valence makes Beyond, you can Mourner that. When Shino summons their Shino Baron Shade Peacock from the deck, the level 4, you can Mourner that. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's still a decent option, but obviously Veiler is going to be better because you have more control over when you can activate it. And so I think that, let's say if you don't have 3 Veilers but you have a Mourner, 2 Veilers, 1 Mourner, that's good. IDP, I think IDP, it's gonna be good against, you know, Blue Eyes. It's gonna be good against the Dragon deck. It's gonna be okay against Dark Magician. I don't think they really, like, initially they care, but they usually get access to a lot of Dark Magicians already. So maybe if you hit both their Dark Magicians at once, you might be saying something. But other than that, I don't think they really care, especially with the quick play that makes them unaffected. Maybe if you can get the Dark Magician, hit the Dark Magicians with IDP before that. But yeah, I think RDP, if you have it and you're running it, you'll see some success with it against these matchups. I mean, going to the tier list here. Sword Soul, maybe. Valence, not too many cards go to the graveyard, so not so much. But, I mean, like I said, a lot of decks are having like similar types. So, I mean, let's see. Chimera, you can hit illusion monsters, get that stuff out the grave. Maybe Shaddoll might see a little bit of a resurgence, so you can hit their fusions. Eldritch, maybe not so much. Yeah. Resonators, I think Resonators are still good, so that it would be nice against that. Imperm. I'm gonna put it above Veiler, yeah, for sure. Now, with Imperm is really good. It actually might go up here with 0.5. Because the thing with this card is it's not only a hand trap, it's a board breaker. And so because of it, I mean, it has a lot of useful benefits. So first of all, like I said, it's not just a hand trap, it's a board breaker. So that's 2 things, hand trap and board breaker. And when you're going against specifically Shino Bird, if they go for a mono, you have a reliable option to take it out with Imperm. You get what I'm saying? You can set the Imperm, they go for a mono, you can Imperm it. And now that whole column is negated. You get what I'm saying? And they don't really care about using their columns and stuff like that, but the more advantage that you can get over your opponent, the better. You could probably misplay and put a card in and activate a card in the column mistakenly or whatever, but having Imperm, and this whole situation with Imperm and a mono is assuming that you went first and set Imperm, and they summon a mono and you activate Imperm to negate the Amano so your stuff goes through. Now, I do expect a lot more Shino Bird players to start playing 2 of the Amanos, so just be careful of that. Like, okay, let's see how many people are playing 2. It's 1 in 64 right now, so that might go up. This guy's already running 2. He got what, top 16? Okay. Let me see. Not sure what's going on with the loading thing. It is 1 in 64. But yeah, I expect that to go up. I expect to be 2 in 64 when KC comes around because, you know, a mono has a big target on its back and you can get out multiple monos in a turn. So I don't see why you wouldn't play a second copy. Next card up. Lost Win. It's a negate. It has a little bit of recursion. It's pretty nice. I might swap it with IDP only because IDP really only works if they have a card in the grave and a card on the field and they have to be the same type. So, you know, Lost Win's a little bit more immediate and more reliable. I might even put it above Compulse, but kind of depends. These are, I think, are interchangeable really. Next card up. Book of Eclipse. This is everyone's favorite card, I think. I don't think I've ever seen anyone complain about Book of Eclipse. It's cheap, it's reliable, and it wins games, really. Even it having that draw effect at the end, usually that doesn't come up as often. Like, even if they can draw, they don't draw anything relevant enough to hurt you on the clapback, especially since they draw in the end phase. So unless they draw into a hand trap, maybe, but you know, a lot of times the second part of your skill offsets that. And so, I mean, these are really the two most powerful cards in the game. And if you draw both of them, you virtually guarantee yourself to win. So I think that, it's undisputed. I don't think anyone can really argue this card going into another tier, or it's just argue its power overall. Next card up is what's this card called? I forgot. Obviously I searched it, right? Let me see. 1 second. This card is called, My Body as a Shield. There we go. The reason I'm mentioning this card is because I saw some talk on Reddit about this card, and I was really mind-boggled because people said they wanted to play this card as their response to Majesty and Blue Eyes, and I just couldn't fathom why anybody would even think to play this card and then have a bunch of people line up with them in agreement. I mean, Cosmic is the superior card in every way. First of all, you pay less life points, and it doesn't hit the grave. If you shield against Majesty, the grave effect is still live. So I don't see why. There's a chance that you don't open Cosmic, sure. But even still, like, I would not recommend or consider anyone to play this card. Like, you're better off running Night Beam. I think you'll do better running Night Beam than My Body as a Shield, because just to pay 1500 life points to negate it is just not worth it, to be honest. I don't think it's worth it at all. So you're better off just playing Cosmic, and even MST, to be honest. I know it still goes to the grave, but you're not paying 1500 life points for that, you know? But yeah. And last but certainly not least, this is part of my hot take discussion. I think that Droll right now is the best card in this format. Now, I know I was glazing Droplet and Eclipse a lot earlier, but if you have Droll, you need to be playing it in every deck that you're going to be playing this KC Cup, and it needs to be at 3 copies. First of all, the best deck in the game, in my personal opinion, is Shinobird. Now, you could say Blue Eyes, this, that, whatever. I think that Shino has a slight edge over Blue Eyes, mainly because of, one, a mono. And I know Blue Eyes doesn't really care that much about a mono, but when it's 1v1 Blue Eyes and Shinobird Blue Eyes, I would say, has a bit more of an edge, but across the grand scheme of the meta, I think Shino Bird has more of an edge. And if you have Droll, if you Droll Shino Bird, you're probably gonna win that game, because yes, they add cards off the skill and stuff like that, but they will not be able to create enough advantage to get that overwhelming board presence that they get on turn 1. Also, Droll is not just good against Shino. It's decent against Blue Eyes. Now you're saying, oh, Blue Eyes doesn't care about Droll. Like, so what? They add a card. If their Jet Dragon stays in the deck, that's a plus for you. Also, if they can't get their like, for example, right, a lot of Blue Eyes decks are playing Trade-In now. I don't think that's correct, because Droll is popular, but if you run into a Blue Eyes player on Trade-In and you have Droll, you're probably gonna win that duel, because they're not gonna be able to make, you know, they're gonna draw into some cards, but I don't think that they're gonna, I think the way that version plays, because they make like Croco Dragon and all that stuff, right? So they kind of miss out on certain things. I could be wrong though, because usually I see the trade-in stuff resolving, them drawing a bunch of cards and stuff. I haven't really seen that version of the deck get Drolled too much. So theoretically, right, if they get Drolled, they can just do the standard combo. But even then, I mean, what if they open like Melody, Trade-In, like a bunch of cards that are susceptible to Droll, right? They don't have, let's say they have mainly cards that get hit by Droll, then that's going to be looking good for you as a, you know, as a non-Blue Eyes player, hitting them with Droll. So, and like a good portion of their deck are these cards. Like, if I can just find a solid list with Trade-In in it. I don't know why I can't find them now. What's the latest one? No. Maybe in KC Cup? No. Here's one with some trade-ins in. Is that Croco Dragon? No Croco Dragon though. But let's say they have trade-in, you know, Melody, Bingo Machine Go. And then they still might want to add off the Kaiba, stuff like that. Like I said, I think that you'll be happy drolling a Blue Eyes player. It's not going to be like a -1, you know? Going back. Also, Dark Magician. Dark Magician is going to be a good deck this format, this KC Cup. And they need to add cards to do their plays, to set up that board that they do. I don't know why this guy's playing Synchros. I don't agree with Synchros and Blue Eyes. I mean, in Dark Magician. But if you droll them, I think they're done. There's nothing that they can really do unless they open like really good and they don't have to like keep searching, but they can set like a bunch of back row and stuff. Maybe. But if you droll Dark Magician, I think 8 times out of 10, you just win that. They might just scoop at that point. Also, dragons. They search when they summon a Tum. They use a Tum's effect to get out the Chamber Dragon Maid, and they can use Chamber Dragon Maid to search for their fusion. You can droll that, and now their charity is dead. But they can play around it by just going straight for the parlor instead. But if they're not playing around Droll, then you're good. So, even if they charity first, yeah, they draw a 3 or whatever. But if they can't get access to their fusion, you don't gotta worry about the Xiao. So there are benefits to Drolling this deck. What other decks are good? Chimera. Chimera was on the power rankings, right? Chimera virtually has to end their turn. Dinos gets hit pretty well. Sky Striker for sure. I think Flunderees as well. They get hit pretty hard too. Don't they add a bunch of cards, right? So Flunderees gets hit pretty well. Rocket, I think is 50-50. It kind of depends more on how they open. Speedroid, Drolling Speedroid, you're balling. You know, people say if you Droll Libromancer, you're cooked, but honestly, I have yet to experience that. I kind of tried to tweak my deck in a way that it doesn't really care about Droll. So maybe that's why too, because I remember hearing that, so I tried to adjust accordingly. Also, Agent is a really good card. Like, if you get Drolled, Agent will really, you know, help you against Droll. So that's another reason why I was a bit confused on why people said, like, if you get Drolled, you're cooked. When Agent just recurs you a resource, and you can just use that card that you just got back from the grave to help you do plays. But I digress. I think that Droll hits a good, like, 70% of the meta right now. And even Resonators, like, you know, Resonators has been a continuously good deck. Hitting that deck with Droll, you're gonna be good. Lyrilisk might see some Lyrilisk players doing something. You Droll them. Actually, no. Nah, it doesn't hit them that hard. I think if you Droll a Lyrilisk player, if you can survive, let's say they go first, you Droll them. If you can survive turn 3, I think you just win. Because I think at that point, they won't have enough resources to, like, you know, stay alive on turn 4, which would be your turn. And on turn 2, you would have a board that, or you should have a board that is shutting them down from, you know, continuously adding and gaining that advantage. So, because you can't OTK them, you can't, like, do any damage to them. So you might as well just create as much of an oppressive board as possible. Shaddoll doesn't really care about Droll, but I do think, like I said, going back to what I was saying, Droll is probably the strongest card single-handedly in this meta. It hits 70% of the decks you're gonna see, and it hits them hard. It's not just like, oh, maybe Blue Eyes is the one exception, maybe, but everything else, they're gonna feel Droll. And continuing my Droll hot take, I also think that hand traps might be better than board breakers this time around. And I say that because with Droll being one card that can significantly hinder an opponent's plays, having any other hand trap on top of that, like Imperm, Veiler, Mourner, even Nibiru, not so much DD Crow, but those other ones that I mentioned, those you probably, it seems like a guaranteed win. There are plenty of times where I've had the Droll Veiler combo and I just won just off of that. And with Eclipse and Droplet, you don't, two things with those cards. With Droplet, you have to actually use your own resources. And yeah, you can chain if you activate another card. You can chain Droplet to it. It could be one of the resources that you use to negate and stuff like that. But let's say if you're not in a state to do stuff like that, you have to use your resources to try and hinder your opponent's disruptions. And so it kind of takes away from you a little bit. And then with Eclipse, it might potentially keep you from lethaling because they're all face down defense position, right? So I think with that, when you Droll, it's like that combo, Droll and Eclipse compared to, I mean, not Droll and Eclipse, what am I saying? Droplet and Eclipse compared to Droll and Veiler, I've noticed that over games, they have less of a board presence when I Veiler and Droll these decks. And so because they have less of a board presence, it's even easier to OTK. You get what I'm saying? So that's just my hot take. Maybe someone that's put in like significantly more hours this week than I have can tell me something otherwise. But just based off my, you know, subjectiveness and my personal opinion and my experiences, it's really looking like hand traps are going to be the way to play this KC Cup. And that's not to knock on board breakers though. Board breakers still do their job. They still get the job done. But I'm just saying that I think overall you'll see more success with having hand traps. And also like it's not it's like I said, it's not that board breakers are bad. I just want to, you know, make that clear. I'm not trying to say that like you should 100% be playing all hand traps, no board breakers. I'm not saying that. I just think that if at least if you're playing any hand trap, I think Droll is the hand trap to play over any of the other ones, even Imperm and Veiler. You'll see a little bit more what's the word, just success in general, just hitting decks straight up with Droll. But if you don't have Drolls, or if you don't have 3 copies of it or whatever, you can still play Droplet, Eclipse, Book of Moon, even Chalice and stuff like that to get your, you know, your games and stuff like that, to win your games. But that's it. This is my staples tier list. Like I said, tier 3 and 4 is not for everybody. It's mainly tier 2, 1, and 0.5 that are the cards you're gonna see on a regular basis. Really, tier 1 and 0.5. There might be a card or two I'm forgetting, but I couldn't think of any when I was like pulling up the cards for this. I think these are the main cards that everyone's gonna be seeing for the next 3 days. So just keep this in mind. And like I said, I think this is the rate in which, like the order in which the cards are in the rows. That's how powerful I think these cards are in comparison to the other cards in their rows. And obviously the row above it is more powerful than that row, you know. But like for example, if you only played these tech cards, you would be good. So yeah, I think that's it. I was trying to think of any other comment that I should add. If you guys have any opinions in the meta, anything unique, anything you want to share, please leave it in the comment section below. And that's it. I'm signing out. Thanks for staying.